صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. We offer our condolences to the Imam of our time, Sahib Al Zaman, and to our scholars, the students of Al Imam Ja'far Al Sadiq, those who spend their lives seeking from the spring of Al Imam Ja'far Al Sadiq alayhi salam, and the Shia of Amir Al Mu'mineen, for the martyrdom of Imam Al Sadiq salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayhi on these blessed nights. We ask Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala to grant us the intercession of Imam Al Sadiq on the day of judgment, and to grant us his ziyarah that we are deprived from in this life. As we know that the grave of Imam Al Sadiq has no dome, has no shrine on it after it was destroyed by the enemies of Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala. One of the clearest and the strongest and the most authentic and the most obvious evidences that we can use to prove the Imamah of Imam Al Sadiq salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayhi, an evidence that every person who utters the Shahadatain, and when I say every person, I'm not speaking about the followers of Imam Al Sadiq. I'm not speaking only about the followers of Amir Al Mu'mineen, that they can use this evidence only to prove that Imam Al Sadiq is the representative of Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala on this earth. That every person who utters these two shahadat, they will be left with no doubt if they get to know this evidence, these introductions. And most of the time, the issue behind not finding the truth is ignorance when it comes to these introductions. This evidence, and everyone is familiar with it, is Hadith al-Thaqalain. The last and final words of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi, that he tried to write them for it to be immortal, and it stayed immortal even though they refused to give Rasulullah something to write on. He said, I leave amongst you the two weighty things, the book of Allah and my household. And the importance of looking at this hadith and depending on it to prove the Imam of Imam Al Sadiq alayhi salam is the duty of each and every one of us towards their Imam. It's the minimum thing that we can do to have the defense against the misconceptions that can come against this Imam salawatullahi wa salam. Since our identity, what do they call us as followers of Amir al-Mu'mineen? Not only Shia, they call us Ja'fariyin, because we are related to Imam Ja'far al-Sadiq salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayh. This hadith, it's authentic not only in our Shia books, in Sahih Muslim you find it, in all of the Sunni books, majority of the Sunni books you find it, and they say that it is an authentic hadith. And the meaning of this hadith, that when Rasulullah says, Inni tarikum fikum al-thaqalain, the book of Allah, wa itrati ahla bayti, and my household, it means that these household are the equivalent to the Quran. Because in this hadith, when we continue it, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi says, أقول فيهما كهاتين ولا أقول فيهما كهاتين. So when I speak about these two things, the Quran and my household, I point with my two index fingers, and I do not point with these two fingers. So this finger is longer than the index finger. The middle finger is longer than the index finger. Rasulullah says, I say about them, and I did this, كي لا يفضل أحدهما على الآخر. So we cannot differentiate between the two, because they are equivalent to the Quran. And he said in the hadith, وَإِنَّهُمَا لَنْ يَفْتَرِقَا حَتَّى يَرِدَا عَلَيَّ الْحَوْضِ. They will not separate from each other until the day of judgment. They will not separate. So during the time of the Prophet, as long as there is a Prophet, there is a Quran. As long as there is the Quran, there is a Prophet. As long as there is a Quran, there has to be someone after the Prophet that is equivalent to the Quran. His words are the words of the Quran. His talk is the talk of the Quran. His teachings and his orders are the orders of the Quran. There has to be in every era, as long as the Quran is still amongst us and between our hands, there has to be an individual from the household of Rasulullah that exists and is present with the book that is considered equivalent to the book. Otherwise, if I say that there is no one, then I accused Rasulullah of lying, wal-iyadhu billah. But what will they narrate? Because when I say that this is the greatest evidence and the most obvious evidence that proves the Imam of Imam Al Sadiq, and we will learn, inshallah, now how it proves the Imam of Imam Al Sadiq alayhi salam. Once we mentioned this hadith, which is one of the most authentic ahadith that both Sunnis and Shia and other sects agree upon, once we mentioned that, they bring us another hadith. No, Rasulullah didn't say wa itrati. He said wa sunnati. He didn't say my household. He said my hadith. That I left amongst you the two weighty things, the Quran and the hadith, not my household. And then you find the answer to this in their own books, where you see that this hadith that they mention, Al-Quran wa sunnati instead of wa itrati, it has two chain of narrators, two ways to this hadith. The first way that is narrated by Malik ibn Anas in Al-Muwatta by Ibn Abbas. And the second tariq and the second way to the hadith is narrated by Al-Hakim by Abi Hurairah. And their shaykh of the most respected shaykh of hadith, of narrations, Al-Albani, he says about these two chain of narrators and about these two turuq of this hadith, he says that it's not authentic and we cannot depend on it as a proof, to prove anything. It's not considered a hujjah. ليس لها حجية. Then وعترتي is the most authentic hadith. This is one. Secondly, in the time of Imam Al Sadiq alayhi salam, since we established the fact that إنهما لن يفترقا, they would not separate from each other until the day of judgment. We established that. Then at the time of Imam Al Sadiq, did the Quran exist or not? Was it present or not? Yes, it was. Then the people who care about their religion, they have to search about the person that is considered equivalent to the Quran, Idlul Quran. The one who will bring them the butun of the Quran. Who is it? Who is the best individual in the time of Imam Al Sadiq other than Imam Al Sadiq alayhi salam? And I'm not saying this and bringing proofs from our sect, from our firqa, from the followers of Amir al-Mu'mineen. All of the Muslimin, they agreed upon the fact that Imam Al-Sadiq is the most knowledgeable and the best individual during his time. The scholars and the non-scholars. In his time and after his time, they agreed that Imam Al-Sadiq alayhi salam, the Imam that we claim that we are his followers, that they never seen someone like Ja'far ibn Muhammad لذكره الصلوات. Every single Muslim, whether he's a scholar or non-scholar, whether he's a Ammi or not Ammi, whether he lived in the time of Imam Al Sadiq or after the time of Imam Al Sadiq, they said that we've never seen someone like Ja'far ibn Muhammad al Sadiq salawatullahi wa salam alayhi. One of the scholars of Al-Azhar, you know, the most famous university of the other sect in Egypt, his name is Muhammad Abu Zuhra. He was writing the biography of the scholars of fiqh. He wrote one book. He gathered 7 names, 7 biographies of 7 scholars in one book. And then after he finished, he wrote a separate book about Al-Imam Al Sadiq alayhi salam. He named Al-Imam Al Sadiq, his biography, his life, his fiqh, and his opinions. And in the introduction of this book, what does he say? He says that the reader should not be deceived by the fact that I wrote about Al-Imam Al Sadiq after I wrote about the other 7. He should not be deceived by this to think that these people are better than Imam Al Sadiq alayhi salam. And then he mentions, بل هو الأفضل, but he is the best. and the most knowledgeable amongst them. وَهُوَ الْمُتَفَوِّقُ عَلَىٰ أَكَابِرِهِمْ. And he is superior to the most superior amongst them. فَإِنَّ أَبَا حَنِيفَ النُّعْمَانِ, who is considered the most knowledgeable scholar of them at the time of Imam Al Sadiq alayhi salam, he used to say that the most knowledgeable person is the person who knows the most about the differences of the people and the differences of their mentalities and sects and religions. So the most knowledgeable is the one who knows about the differences in the people, and Al-Ja'far ibn Muhammad was the most knowledgeable in this. And he said, what do I say about him? And even Malik, who's the imam of one of the sects, he used to go to Imam Al Sadiq alayhi salam and learn from him and narrate his hadith. Then we ask him, why did you write about him later, not before? He said, for two reasons. One, out of respect to his aura. Two, because people had different opinions about him. Some of them liked him, some of them didn't. So I had to pick and choose my words so I don't face the enmity of the people. And we see in the books of the other sects a lot of words about this Imam that we call ourselves Ja'fariyin, after him, linking ourselves to him. When we see that everyone admits that this was the best individual, the most knowledgeable individual during his time, who do we take our teachings from? From him. He's the closest person to the characteristics that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said to be equivalent to the Quran. The third point, how many narrators narrated from Imam Ja'far Al Sadiq alayhi salam? We look, some of them like Ibn Uqda, which one of the great scholars, not Shia, he says that there's 4,000 narrator, people who listened to Imam Al Sadiq and narrated his ahadith. They say that these ahadith were gathered in 400 books. Jabir ibn Hayyan, he wrote 50 booklets in chemistry just from Al-Imam Ja'far Al-Sadiq salawatullahi wa salamu alayh. Aban bin Taghlib, or Muhammad ibn Muslim al-Thaqafi, he said that I memorized 30,000 jurisprudential ruling from the Imam. And nowadays, if you open Minhaj al-Salihin, from the beginning to the end, how many masail do you count? It doesn't even reach 5,000. It doesn't reach 10,000. 30,000 hadith. But when you open the Sahih al-Bukhari, you do not even find one narration that is narrated by Al-Imam Ja'far al-Sadiq, who they admit he was more knowledgeable than Abu Hanif al-Nu'man. Abu Hanif al-Nu'man, inshallah, we will speak about this short story بعد الصلاة على محمد وآل محمد. When we call ourselves Ja'fariyin, we travel around the world, this title follows us. Sometimes we try to hide it because it's part of our identity and we feel that we are in danger just because you are a Ja'fari. Do we deserve to be called the Ja'fariyin? We should ask this question. We should ask this question that, what does this Imam that I have the title that is related to him, what does he want from me? After all, I'm holding this identity. What does he want from me? What are his instructions to me? If I am working at a job and there is a boss on top of my head, I wait for his instructions. What do you want from me so I can deserve the payment that you're going to pay me? We want to deserve the intercession of the Imam. We want to deserve the graces. We want to deserve the statuses in the day of judgment. What do you want from me in return? For me to actually know the value of this title. We really do not know the value of this title, being a Ja'fari. The only people who knew the value of this title are the likes of Muhammad ibn Muslim al-Thaqafi. The man who said that I memorized 30,000 jurisprudential ruling from Imam Al Sadiq alayhi salam. This Muhammad ibn Muslim, for you to get to know him more, the most knowledgeable scholar at the time, Abu Hanifa al-Nu'man, an old lady visited him at night. She said to him, I have an urgent matter. My daughter's pregnant and she died and I can see the baby in her womb moving left and right. What do I do in this case? He said, I have no answer to this. I don't want to hold the burden of giving you an answer that I do not know about. And he pointed to the house of Muslim, Muhammad ibn Muslim al-Thaqafi, the student of Imam Al Sadiq alayhi salam, and Imam Al Baqir. She went to the house of Muhammad ibn Muslim. He was sleeping on the rooftop of his house. She knocked at the door. He came down. He opened the door. She said to him, I have an urgent matter. My daughter died and she's pregnant and I can see the baby's moving in her womb. What do I do in this case? He said to her, I heard my master Imam Al Baqir saying that you open the stomach, the womb of this pregnant woman from the left side, and you take the baby out, you stitch her, and then you bury her. And he said to her, who sent you to me in the middle of the night? She said, I went to Abu Hanifa al-Nu'man. He said to me, I don't know, go to Muhammad ibn Muslim, and every answer that he gives it to you, bring it back to me. Teach it to me. The second day, it was Friday, Abu Hanifa was giving the sermon of Friday, and he was talking about this mas'ala. Muhammad ibn Muslim was present. He coughed to tell him, I'm here. I know everything that happened last night. Then Abu Hanifa said to him, be silent, let us live. دعنا نعيش. Abu Hanifa didn't know something that Muhammad ibn Muslim, this student of Imam Al Sadiq, he gave it while he was just lying down on the rooftop of his house, just an answer behind his tongue. This person, he knew what does it mean to be a Ja'fari. What does he say? Once they brought him to testify in the court. When Shurayk al-Qadi, he was the enemy of Ahlul Bayt, he knew who Muhammad ibn Muslim was. He had a companion with him. Both of them were Shia, were Ja'fariyin. He said to them, Ja'fariyani Fatimiyan, we do not accept your testimony, your shahada. We do not trust you. Then Muhammad ibn Muslim started to cry. He asked him, why did you cry? Why are you crying? He said, Nasabtana ila aqwamin, when you called me Ja'fari, you linked me to people that they do not accept someone like me to be of their brothers or of their companions from what they see of the silliness of my righteousness. سخف ورعنا ونسبتنا إلى رجل لا يرضى بأمثالنا أن يكونوا من شيعتنا. You linked us to a man that he doesn't accept the likes of us to be of their Shia. And he cried. What does it mean? Imam Rida alayhi salam explains later. A group of people visited Imam Rida. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. A group of people visited Imam Rida salawatullahi wa salam alayhi, knocked at the door. The servant came out. They said, tell Al-Rida alayhi salam that we are the Shia of Amir al-Mu'mineen. We came here to visit him. The servant went inside and he came back. He said, the Imam doesn't want to welcome you. They went and they came back the second day. They came back the third day, the fourth day, 60 days, 2 months on daily basis, coming to the door of Imam Rida alayhi salam, and the Imam Rida refuses to see them. And then on the 61st day, they said to him, tell Imam Rida that the Shia of Amir al-Mu'mineen came to visit you and your enemies are belittling us and laughing at us that you do not accept us. They begged and the Imam allowed them in. He didn't respond to their salam and he didn't give them a seat to sit on. They said to him, Ya Mawlana, ma hadha al-jafa. Why this way of treatment? The people are belittling us, they're laughing at us. What did we do? He said, what I did following the teachings of my Lord, my Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala, and my grandfather Rasulullah and my forefathers. They said, why? He said to them, لِدَعْوَاكُمْ أَنَّكُمْ شِيعَةَ أَمِيرِ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ. Just because you claimed that you are the Shia of Amir al-Mu'mineen. Do you know who the Shia of Amir al-Mu'mineen are? He said, إِنَّمَا شِيعَتُهُ الْحَسَنِ وَالْحُسَيْنِ وَسَلْمَانِ وَعَمَّارِ وَالْمِقْدَادِ and Muhammad the son of Abi Bakr. Those who did not disobey them. وَلَمْ يَرْكَبُوا شَيْئًا مِنْ فُنُونِ زَوَاجِرِهِ فَأَمَّا أَنْتُمْ. When you say that you are his Shia and you are in most of your actions and deeds falling short. مخالفون مقصرون متهاونون بعظيم حقوق إخوانكم في الله. You belittle the rights of your brothers in faith upon you. You perform taqiyya when it's not a must. And you do not perform taqiyya when it is a must. When it comes to letting the people that I'm working with that I'm Muslim, I'm ashamed to pray in front of them. I perform taqiyya. Okay? In other cases, I do not perform taqiyya where it's a must. So now I want to deserve to be called Ja'fari. What do I do? What does the Imam want from me? I will mention the last part of my sermon after Salat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. The narrations and the hadith that speaks about the characteristics of the Shia and how they should perform during the time of the occultation are a lot. But one of the most important ones that is related to Imam Al Sadiq alayhi salam is what is called the message of Imam Al Sadiq to his Shia. The Imam has a letter for you. There is a letter that he sent to us. And it exists in the hadith. Back in the time, people looked after this letter. And it's very important, dear brothers and sisters, to download it. It's on PDF. And I think it's translated as well. And I sent it to Brother Ali, inshallah. Maybe it will be printed in the future. People back in the time of Imam Al Sadiq and afterwards, they used to keep this letter in the prayer room. Every time they pray, they do Tasbih al-Zahra, they bring this letter, they look at it to remind themselves, what do I have to do to deserve to be a Ja'fari? To deserve to be called a Shi'i and a follower of Amir al-Mu'mineen salawatullahi wa salamu alayhi. Imam Rida alayhi salam said, do not say that you're Shia, say that you are lovers of Amir al-Mu'mineen salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayhi. So, sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. This letter, it's about 47 pages. Alam al-Majlisi explains the main expressions and it's not too complicated to understand. It's very simple wordings. If you gather all this letter and you read through it, it will be summarized into 5 titles. 5 things that are the major things for us to follow instructions. The first title, the importance of sticking to the concept of taqiyya. Taqiyya, with the Imam in this letter, he says, وَعَلَيْكُمْ بِمُجَامَلَةِ أَهْلِ الْبَاطِلِ. An expression that when you first read it, you'll be surprised. He says, your duty is to compliment the people of falsehood. Compliment, it means like the sweet talk, the soft talk, false praise. Compliment the people of falsehood. People might think, isn't this against enjoining what's good and forbidding what's evil? Didn't the hadith say that you have to frown in the face of the person who does bad? No, it's not against Amr al-Ma'ruf wa Nahy al-Munkar, because this teaching, it's not about furu' ad-din. When you see someone who doesn't pray, it's a must upon you to advise him. It's a must upon you not to smile in his face. Or a sister that doesn't wear her hijab properly, it's a must upon you to advise her. Not in furu' ad-din, it speaks about the aqeedah. Once you believe in aqeedah, because it happens nowadays a lot in the universities, at schools, at work. 2 months ago, there's this person, he came to me, he was doing community work. He just came out of prison. He said to me, there is this guy that I meet at the community work. He's from the other sect. He keeps debating me with this, about this what's it called, this thing in history and that. And I said to myself, you are doing community work. You don't even have the characteristics that you can be considered. I'm speaking about a person who did certain actions that took him to prison. You don't have the characteristics to be a human being that is considered following the teachings of Islam. And then concentrating on the ikhtilaf fil aqeedah. Once you are at a certain aqeedah, then automatically you know that the other people, that the other side, they are on the batil. Then this talk is going to be pointless. To debate from now until tomorrow about sujood on the turba. They disrespect you about you are worshipping the turba. To discuss it from now until tomorrow, He's not going to tell you, give me a turba, I want to pray on it now. Book me a ticket, I want to go to the ziyarah. The Imam says, وَعَلَيْكُمْ بِمُجَامَلَةِ أَهْلِ الْبَاطِلِ. Don't let them be. Why? Why? Most of the time, if I do not have the proper knowledge, they will throw a misconception that can create chaos in my mind. And then I start questioning my religion. Amir al-Mu'mineen counts one of the kaba'ir, one of the great sins. He says, mujalasat ahl rayb, gathering with the people that always brings up misconceptions. Imam Al Sadiq alayhi salam, he said to Hisham al-Hakam, people like you that are supposed to debate with others, that have the proper knowledge. He said in the letter, تحملوا الضيم, be patient with their oppression and never debate with them. دينوا فيما بينكم وبينهم إذا أنتم جالستموهم وخالطتموهم ونازعتموهم الكلام بالتقية. Follow the taqiyya with them. What we live nowadays is chaos. You go on the internet, a person wearing a turban, he doesn't even know the rules of the Arabic grammar, speaks in Arabic on the YouTube, causes fitna, and has a lot of followers and people praise him. And this is totally against at-taqiyya. And under what excuse this hadith taqiyya, it was only for the time of the Imam. Didn't we just mention that the Imam is idl al-Quran, equivalent to the Quran? The Quran is timeless, the words of the Imams are timeless. The second title, submission and training ourselves and our hearts to submit to the rulings of Allah and the teachings that are brought by Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad. A man came to Imam Al Sadiq alayhi salam, and the Imam had an apple in his hand. He said to him, Wallahi ibn Rasulillah, if you split this apple into two pieces, there is no difference between this half and this half, and you tell me that this half is halal and this half is haram, I will submit and I will agree with you. And I will try to be brief with the last 3 points. This is halal and this is haram, I will agree and submit to you. Then the Imam said, Rahimakallah, Rahimakallah, Rahimakallah. Nowadays, we love our faith and our sect when it comes to temporary marriage. But when it comes to paying khums, I don't believe in it. When it comes to, for example, certain duties that we are not comfortable to perform it and to fulfill our duty towards, then we don't like it anymore. We're not convinced. The hadith says by Imam Al Sadiq, if people perform their prayers and fulfilled their duty towards zakat and performed hajj and they fasted Shahr Ramadan, but at the same time they say to something that Allah decided or His Messenger, why did Allah do this? Who could have done differently? Then Allah will count them as the mushrikeen. We have to understand, we follow instruction on daily basis. As a student, I follow the instruction of the teacher. As a worker, I follow the instructions of my boss. As a boss, I follow the instruction of the customer. Even if I do not have a boss over my head, I do not have customers, at least eventually I'm going to be married. There's always going to be a boss over my head that I'm going to follow their instructions. Even if I'm playing a game, I'm submitting, I'm following the instruction to be successful in this game. Only when it comes to what makes me successful in my faith, then I have to complain. صبروا أيتها العصابة المرحومة المفلحة. Know that it's not Allah's aura for each and every one of you to use their own analogy and their own opinion when it comes to religion. Number 3, maybe I will mention just 4. We have to know that al-mu'min has to train himself that the natural state and the natural situation of his in this dunya is to be going through hardships. Al-aslu fil mu'min al-bala. The natural state of the mu'min in this dunya is to be going through trials, is to living a hard life. And when I'm supposed to be surprised, when I'm living a good life. While the natural state in the non-mu'min is to not going through the bala, is to living a good life. The Imam salawatullahi wa salam alayhi says, صبروا النفس على البلاء في الدنيا in the letter فإن تتابع البلاء فيها والشدة في طاعة الله وولايته. Train your nafs to be patient with the trials of Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala, because there is nothing in the hands of Allah that can be achieved except with patience and contentment, being content with what Allah did for you and to you. And the final thing, the fourth, we have to know, the mu'min has to know that there is a great duty upon your shoulders towards your brother in faith. The brother in faith that shares with you the same identity, the Ja'fari, you have a great duty towards him. I'm not saying about the friend that you always see him at the Husayniyah. I'm talking about those who do not come to the Husayniyah, who do not have the chance or did not get the chance, or maybe they're a bit shy, maybe because the way they dress themselves, the way they present themselves, they see it as it's not suitable for me to attend to these places. These are the people that you have to scavenge for. These are the people that you have to look after. They have a duty upon you. Aban ibn Taghlib was with Imam Al Sadiq in Hajj. In the middle of the tawaf, a man from outside the tawaf, he started to call upon Aban ibn Taghlib. Then Aban ibn Taghlib didn't respond. He was in tawaf. Imam Al Sadiq alayhi salam told him, Ya Aban, this person is calling you. He said, I know. He said to him, is he on أهو على الأمر الذي أنت عليه? Does he share the same aqidah with you? A follower of us? He said, yes. He said, then go respond to him. He said, and I cut the tawaf. He said, cut the tawaf. He said, even if it's tawaf al-farida, the tawaf of Hajj, the wajib. He said, yes. And then the Imam mentioned, one tawaf is equivalent to this. 6,000, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will grant you 6,000 rewards. Allah will eliminate 6,000 sayyah. Or Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will eliminate all of your bad deeds. And Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala will elevate you 6,000 daraja. And then he said that to serve your brother in faith is better than a tawaf, wa tawaf, wa tawaf, until he counted 10 tawafat. 60,000 levels, 60,000 credits, and 60,000 sins that are eliminated. To respond to him and to fulfill his need is much better than 10 tawafat. And we have a duty towards them. من محض أخاه النصيحة فقد ظلمه. Whoever deprives his brother in faith the nasiha and the advice, he oppressed him. So Al-Imam Al Sadiq alayhi salam, what he did, he took upon his shoulders the duty of preparing the person that is considered a follower of Amir al-Mu'mineen salawatullahi wa salam alayhi. Fulfilled his promise to his father. When Imam al-Baqir was on his deathbed, he said to him, أوصيك بأصحابي خيرا. I ask you to look after my companions. Then the Imam said, Wallahi, I will look after them to a point that wherever they go, in any country they are present, they will not need to ask anyone. And here it's not about the financial needs, to ask people about the financial needs, to ask them for favors. No, not to ask anyone about what really matters, which is their faith. We ask Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala to grant us the tawfiq to fulfill our duties towards the title that we claim, being a Ja'fari. We ask Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala to hasten the appearance of Sahib al-Asr wal-Zaman, Ajjal Allah Ta'ala farajahu al-Sharif, to avenge Imam Al Sadiq salawatullahi wa salam alayhi, and to build his shrine and to allow us to visit his grave. بحق الصلاة على محمد وآل محمد.